Today I am going to talk about love. Um, when I say that, I don't just mean loving everyone else. I mean a lot of different things. So I think the most obvious form of love that comes to everyone's mind is loving other people in a romantic way. So that's the first thing I'll talk about. Specifically, I guess, kind of my experience with that. The whole video is mostly just going to be talking about my own personal experiences. Um, yeah, let's start with that. I think it's easy to get a little too caught up in the whole romance thing. Whether you are in a relationship or not, it's not the only form of love that you're going to in life. And despite that, I still think it's one of the most important ones because you don't have to be in a relationship, be happy. You don't have to be married to be happy or anything. It's all person to person. Sure, most people probably do aim for that in their life as a source of happiness, but there do exist people out there that don't really need that. So it's important to keep in mind that your experience doesn't reflect the entirety of it, and your past experiences don't necessarily reflect your future experience. I think the longest and most important past experience, like romantic love I've had, just with one person. I haven't really been much of a person to get into relationships. Not because I don't want to. I honestly can't give a proper reason for it. It's kind of a mix of a lot of different things. For one, I have a lot of hang-ups, I guess. And two, there aren't really any people I'm that interested in right now. But the most important relationship I think I've had in the romantic world was with another trans person. But it didn't start off that way, actually. I had a hunch that I was trans and that he was trans before we got into a relationship, but I never really did anything about it. I never talked about it with anyone or her or anyone else. I just didn't do anything about it. I just kind of ignored it. Like, alright, whatever. I might be feeling wrong. I might be completely false on this. And it's also not something that she's brought up, so I won't care about it. This relationship that I was in, it was online, funnily enough. I met this person actually on this server I'm playing on right now. And that was pretty much how we initially connected. It's just Minecraft. Kind of weird. Actually, not kind of. Very weird. And a little complicated for some. I know that's... For some people, that might not even, raise any red flags or anything, and for others, that'd be like a, what the fuck? What are you talking about kind of moment. It's all subjective. But regardless, that's how we met. And this relationship lasted an entire year or so, which is pretty impressive, I think, given how many issues it had. First of all, the first issue for us was that it was online, which is something that neither of us really wanted. I think the only way you can have an online relationship is if both of you guys really want an online relationship. I think, at least from what I've seen, if someone or both people want a physical in-person relationship more than an online one, it's going to be a little more difficult to work through. It's going to be a little more difficult to be in that relationship and that person, which makes sense because, it's not really for everyone. Certainly not for me, but I didn't really know that at the time. I was just happy to be someone who was in a good situation. And throughout this entire year that we were together, we actually did meet up. I want to make that clear that this was not, I guess, an entirely stereotypical online relationship, because they did go out of our way to meet up with me and spent time together for about an entire week. This whole relationship, a lot of flaws in it. Like I said, it's online, but Secondly, we were both just kind of flawed people. Not in the sense that we were bad, not that we were evil or anything, but that we both had a lot of our own issues that we were not dealing with. And we projected a lot of those feelings onto each other. And that's never a good thing. I mean, you always want to have good communication in a relationship. That's just kind of a fact. Everyone knows that. And if you and your partner struggle to communicate, that's one thing. But if you guys blame each other for your problems and dump things on each other that you guys aren't really responsible for, that's going to be a headache. Not only going to be a headache for you and the other person in the moment, but probably for the rest of your life. Because if you don't fix that issue, you're probably going to take that same mentality and apply it to other things, other relationships. And one of her major issues that I guess I shared in common, but to a much lesser extent, was depression. We both struggled with it a lot, and we both didn't really know what to do about it. Kind of refused to do anything about it for the most part. And that whole issue created another issue, is that we didn't know how to talk about our feelings. We didn't know how to do that to each other. We didn't know how to do that to anyone else. We just didn't know what the fuck to do. And because of this, we also didn't know how to talk about transitioning. And eventually there came a time where we did talk about that with each other. But even then, we were the only people in each other's lives that knew that part about us. Not our parents, not our friends, not our therapist, not a doctor. It was just each other. And there are some cases where that's going to be, okay. Sure, you don't want everyone knowing your secrets, especially if it's something that you're that hesitant about sharing. But that's not an easy burden to bear. That's not something that you can just brush off for most people. And it's not something that either of us could. So when the time came to actually come out, she did, and I didn't. And I think that's because we mostly were at very different points in each other's lives, and we also had very different lives. For one, she was older than me. 2 years older than me, which, you can have your thoughts on that. I do think it's questionable at times, but I don't think it's anything morally wrong. And secondly, she had dropped out of high school, which was not what I planned on doing. And that's not something I will do. I kind of want to complete high school, even though there are a lot of assholes in it. I want to get a degree. I want to go to college and things. That's not something we shared in common. So, when the time came for each other to come out, she did and I didn't. She told her divorced parents, and I didn't tell my together parents. So like I said, we were very different people with very different lives, and I think that was the main reason that we disagreed on a lot of things. At this point in my life, I had never touched any drugs at all. No drugs, no alcohol, nothing. But she was definitely an addict. She wasn't addicted to, I guess, any hard substances, you could say, but she was definitely addicted to weed. And I know there are going to be people that think, oh, you can't get addicted to weed, what the fuck are you talking about? It's not an addictive substance. And I agree that in and of itself it's not addictive, but people can be addictive personalities, and I'll explain why it was an issue for me, because nowadays I take a different stance on drugs, I think, but at this point in my life, I had a very poor view on it, because I had only been exposed to her, and she is not someone that could manage herself. She was so reliant on weed that she would pretty much hit her cart like every fucking hour. More than that, really. And her excuse is that, well, I feel like shit if I don't. That's kind of just addiction. That's not, no, it's not kind of. That is addiction. That is what addiction is. And I tried to tell her that. I tried to get her to quit a million times, and none of it really ever worked. And that's part of why we broke up. And it's not because I have a problem with her doing drugs, really. At the time I did, but nowadays I don't have a problem if people choose to smoke. My problem was how often she was doing it, and how she acted under the influence. She was boring under the influence, I'm not gonna lie. When she was high, it was probably the most dull conversations I'd ever had. She didn't know how to talk to me. She didn't know how to say yes, no, thank you, fuck you. All she could do was just say yeah pretty much to everything. Just ignore everything. Like, it's almost as if weed for her gave her the effect of, like, Xanax, you know? If you've ever met someone that is off of benzos or Xanax especially, you'll know that they're not exactly a conversationalist. They don't know how to deal with their problems, and they don't, quite frankly, they don't give a shit about their problems when they're high, you know? If you're off a Xan, you're not really gonna give a fuck about anything else. You're gonna feel really great and not care about any problems that might be real issues. And that was one of the reasons that we broke up. There are a whole list of other things, but I think that was one of the main issues I had, that she had a substance problem. And despite that, I don't think I ever really regret this relationship. It's still the only serious relationship I've ever been in. And it had its good parts. I won't pretend like the entire thing was bad, because there were definitely good parts of it. So that's the only real, I think, romantic love I've ever had. Everyone's different. Some people need it, some people don't. I think I am someone that needs it in the long run, but if I go one day without having a crush on someone, I'm not going to be killed or anything. I'm not going to be hurt or dying or anything. I'll just be upset. But let's talk about other forms of love. You can love others, yes. You can love others in a romantic way, but what about loving other people in a non-romantic way? I think one of the most important things I have in my life, and I think most people can agree with this, is friends. I could confidently say that I would go bonkers if I did not have friends. I need human connection to function. I need friends to function. This guy's so fucking lame. Could you just imagine playing like this? God, you suck. But I think connecting with friends and loving friends is probably the most important form of love you can have in your life, besides loving yourself. I know there are people out there that don't really need human affection and kindness to live. I think those people are crazy. I don't really feel good without friends. Not exactly a revolutionary idea, but it's true. I feel like shit when I don't talk to my friends. I think friendship love is just as important. In some cases, more important than romantic love. But it's also just as easy to get lost in friendships as it is to get lost in relationships. I think one instance of this happening was I had, I guess, a semi-online friend about a month ago who I talked about my last one of my videos. I've only made 2 up to this point. While I wouldn't have minded getting into a relationship with this person, from what I could tell at least, I really just wanted a friend. I needed a friend more than anything, and she was kind of there for that. You know, we were both trans, and we could both connect with each other about that. But for the days after she just, like, left me on delivered permanently, I felt like crap. You know, I felt like the worst person in the world. I felt like I must have done something wrong, and I felt like not having this friendship was like not having, I don't know, a part of me, because this was the only person I had ever talked to this in depth about some of my personal struggles. Without that, I felt like crap. After, time has gone by, it's been like a month. I don't really care about it that much anymore. It left me with more questions than answers, of course. That's still something I wonder. Just like, why did that happen in the first place? But it's not something I toss and turn over. But for a few days, I definitely did. Because my love for this person was so strong and unhealthy. When I didn't really have much of a reason to feel that in the first place. Never got together with them. I never met them. It just felt like such a good thing to be able to talk to someone, and it felt like such a crappy thing when that was taken away. And I feel like if you cannot love yourself, you can't really love your friends, you can't really love a significant other properly. I'm not saying you have to be happy with every part of yourself, but I think you need to be content with the person you are at the very least, and just kind of accept that. And that's something I eventually came to terms with after a few years, and I would say that, for a good year or so now, I've kind of just come to terms with who I am. I know what I like about myself, I know what I don't like, I know what I want to change, I know what I don't want to change, and that's good. Without that, I would not have met a lot of people that are now my friends today. And I think it's a pretty common thing in the trans community to not love yourself, hate yourself. I get it. There are parts of myself I hate too. So to feel any kind of proper love and build any kind of proper romantic or platonic connection with anyone that involve love, I think you need to just be able to love yourself first. Whether that's a lot or a little, just kind of have to be able to do that. But besides loving others and loving yourself, I think one final important piece of love is loving things, loving, hobby you have, or loving the server that you play Bed Wars on, or, just finding something to love, I think is really important. And for some people that's their job, For some people, they might love clocking into work every day. They might just love what they do for a living. For some people, they might absolutely hate what they do for a living, but they have a passion that they love, They hate their day job as, I don't know, an office worker, but, they absolutely love music production and they want to be a producer, Things like that aren't that uncommon. Maybe if you're like me, you love video games, you love Minecraft or Celeste, or you do video editing, love that, and that's your passion, or maybe you're lucky enough where that's your job and you can support yourself off of that. Regardless, you probably have some kind of love because you chose to do that. Not to say every choice you make has to be one made out of love, but, if you choose to put, hundreds of hours into learning how to produce music, or learning how to edit videos, or learning a certain game, I would sure hope that you love it. And at the center of all this, I think the big takeaway from this video that you need to, not that you need to, but the big takeaway from this video that I intend you to leave with is that love is probably one of the most important things in life, and there are far more important things than that in situations, but it's very important. But to properly love anything and anyone, you have to love yourself. I'm not exactly loving myself right now, because I just threw hard as fuck, and I'm probably going to lose this game. But, I don't think I'm a bad person for that, and I don't hate myself for it, certainly. It does piss me off a little, but, whatever. I digress, I move on. There is other more important shit in life. And sometimes it works out. Sometimes you actually do win a situation that does not look possible. So, if you watch this video all the way through, or if you skipped here to see what the fuck I was talking about, the TLDR is just try to find something that you love and be able to recognize when that thing is healthy or unhealthy for you. When I say find something to love, I don't mean anything stupid. Don't fall in love with fentanyl or anything, you know. Fall in love with something that can have as positive an impact on you as it does everyone else. Find something that you love and chase it. Whether that be a career, whether that be a person. I mean, don't physically chase after a person. If you have a crush on them, that's kind of weird. But don't give up on love, alright? And before you can start getting into a relationship, I think you need to recognize that you gotta love yourself. Not exactly a profound statement, but I hope it was at least worth your time. And if you watch this all the way through, I'm very happy about that, and that's super awesome, because I intentionally made this video a little easier to watch than my last one, because that was not exactly short. So, thank you for watching, and I hope you find some love.